If it wasn't for the Mavericks moving Luka Doncic, the Raptors would have taken home the title of trade season's most confusing team when they acquired and then extended Brandon Ingram while 20-plus games under 500. It wouldn't be the first time. But unlike their trade for Jakob Poeltl on the eve of the 2023 deadline, or their short-sighted deal for Rudy Gay in 2013, the 2024-25 Raptors had publicly committed to a rebuild that should have made them sellers, not buyers. The bet on Ingram is a fascinating one, a buy low acquisition that simultaneously carries plenty of risk for a rebuilding team. Ingram's talent and production are undeniable. He's a lanky self-creator who's averaged 23 points over the last 6 years while shooting 51% inside the arc, 37% from deep, and 85% from the free throw line. He's a 3-level scorer who draws fouls and has quietly developed into a solid playmaker, averaging 5.6 assists over the last 4 years while boasting a 100th percentile assist rate among wings this season. And he was available for relatively cheap while still only 27 years old. But there's a reason for that. Ingram's mid-range heavy game limits his efficiency. His defensive contributions have rarely measured up to his impressive wingspan, and he's averaged just 55 games played per 82 contests since 2017. The one-time All-Star isn't quite good enough to be the #1 option on a contender, but he's also not threatening enough off the ball to be a great sidekick. He resides in the same awkward middle ground Toronto's all-time leading scorer does. That's not the kind of player who fits best next to 23-year-old franchise star Scottie Barnes, a playmaking forward with limited range who needs movers and spacers around him. It's possible that head coach Darko Rajakovic's movement-heavy offensive system, which requires quick thinking, brings out the most efficient version of Ingram, just as it's done for RJ Barrett.
Hey, it could happen.
After all, Ingram's a much better shooter than Barrett was upon RJ's homecoming. Ingram's a great scorer who isn't complete enough to be a contender's best player, and Barnes is becoming a two-way monster whose half-court scoring limitations mean he can probably be a great team's 1A, but not its top scorer. Perhaps it's a recipe for the unlikeliest perfect partnership.
You complete me.
Contrary to popular belief, players in their mid to late 20s aren't finished products. Heck, Ingram's a more accomplished star and more enthused to be a Raptor than the greatest Raptor of all time was when he came to Toronto as a 26-year-old. If Ingram adapts and stays healthy, this will go down as a shrewd acquisition for a team that doesn't normally land players of his caliber on the free agent market and wouldn't have had the cap space to sign him outright. Plus, the Raptors still employ all the promising youngsters they did before acquiring Ingram and control all their own first-round picks. With Ingram and another promising young player in the fold via the 2025 draft, the Raps could soar up the standings in a perennially questionable Eastern Conference. Though it speaks to how strange this transaction was that Ingram can best help his new team by not playing right now and preserving Toronto's lottery odds. Jumping at the opportunity to pay Ingram $40-ish million per year over the next 2 to 3 years, and essentially bidding against themselves to do so, is a strange bet to make when you've gone out of your way to call this year 1 of a rebuild. But it's far from egregious, and I can understand the logic of accumulating as much talent as possible, then figuring out the rest later. Though no one else was lining up to pay him, Ingram's contract isn't long enough or unreasonable enough to become unmovable, and the Raptors still have enough trade equity to remain flexible in pursuit of a bigger star. But tough decisions now need to be made earlier than expected. Though they'll have plenty of wiggle room under the punitive tax aprons, the Raptors will be butting up against the tax itself once their 2025 draft pick is added to the mix. There's way more talent here than a bottom 5 rebuilder usually boasts, but it also doesn't scream contender. And paying the tax to be an early postseason out every year is exactly the kind of murky middle the Raptors were supposedly trying to avoid when they committed to a rebuild in the first place.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.